What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. I'm Michigan Sports Talk here. In this one, we go inside Michigan football's bounce back week here as coaches and players spoke to the media, talked about the focus in practice this week, as well as the message from some of these coaches to these players and what they're focusing on offensively, defensively, as these players are locked in, have had good practices, and they know it's bounce back week. We also go over some recruiting news. Michigan set to host a 5-star quarterback this weekend, along with some talented 2027 wide receivers and a new potential top 100 wide receiver target and a former Penn State commit. It's all going to be in this video and more, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so before we do go ahead and get into this video, I first want to give a shout out to our channel members. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel, and also everyone who is subscribed, drops a like on the videos, comments, and just shows up for every video. Thank you guys all. But let's go ahead and get right into it here, and first wanted to start by talking about what Sherrone said on Inside Michigan Football radio show ahead of the game against Washington. First talked about the defense, against USC. I said there weren't a lot of explosive plays over the top of the defense, which we wanted to keep everything in front of us, so they just wanted to dink and dunk, and we had to rally to the football. So the big thing for the DBs was keeping everybody in front, which I think they did a good job of, but we've got to continue to mix in and do a good job with the front seven, stopping the run. And he said it's a combination of you've got to be able to stop the run, make them one-dimensional, because you'll take them trying to take those short passes, and if they try to run the ball, they can, and they get one-dimensional. So you've got to take that away, and we didn't do that, but if we do that, we'll be in much better shape. Now, USC, credit to their offensive game plan. They took Michigan's defensive pass rush out of the equation in this one with the short passes, the screen plays, and they also ran the ball very well against Michigan's defense. So, most of their explosive plays came from screen plays, from running plays, and now, it's not going to get any easier going up against Washington. They've seen the film, they saw what USC did to Michigan's defense, and now Wink Martindale, these players have to lock in here for this Washington game, and obviously tackling was a big factor in why USC was able to do what they did. Michigan did not tackle well at all in that game, and defensive tackle Damon Payne did speak to the media, and he said that Wink Martindale, shared a message with the players. He said basically, what type of man are you going to be? How are you going to respond? Are you going to let this moment affect the next weeks you got, or are you going to just move on? And he said, I think it was received great coming from practice today, a new energy, good bounce back, and just ready to attack the week. He said we took moments, thought about what we did wrong, and have implemented the corrections this week, and you just take it week by week, play by play. Michigan missed 14 tackles against USC, allowed them to beat them up in the screen game, and again, they weren't able to get any pressure with what USC was doing. So Damon Payne, he said, as far as practice, not really much of a drastic change, or we need to shift everything. Speaking on the focus, he said it's just more so let's lock in and get back to work, and let's do things better, not just keep doing the same thing. And he said one of the main focuses on Tuesday's practice was tackling, old school tackling drills, and I said just highlighting this week there's more of an emphasis on wrapping up, bringing guys down, and this week with Washington's quarterback Damon Williams and then their running back Jonah Coleman, Michigan has their work cut out for them against this Washington offense. They have got to make tackles. Are you using the Sleeper app for daily fantasy football? Well, if not, you're missing out. The Sleeper app is where it's at. And this weekend in this Michigan-Washington game, I'm taking Washington's Jonah Coleman to have an anytime touchdown. I think he gets one against Michigan's defense. And then how about Andrew Marsh, the true freshman wide receiver, has been stepping up for the Wolverines. I'm picking him to have more than 46.5 receiving yards, and you can make tons of picks like this using the Sleeper app. And right now they're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required, plus first-time users still also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100 using promo code MST. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So guys, go ahead, check out Sleeper today, link down below in the description. And then offensively, Sherrone did speak on Inside Michigan Football Radio show on Bryce Underwood. You know, he said, I think he's in a good place and he continues to learn. He continues to want to learn, but there are things he's got to continue to progress on. His footwork on the basic throws, some of them he missed, and it was all footwork. They had nothing to do with his arm angle or hips. You know, those little things will help him. And obviously through that interception, and while there was, you know, potentially probably should have been called a pass interference, there is still, you know, another open guy that would have gotten Michigan the first down, continued the drive. I believe it was Samaj Morgan. I could be wrong though, but and then also him taking a sack early on in the game forced Michigan out of field goal range. You know, Sherrone Moore said, you know, it's a free runner, which is part of the issue in protection. We've got to make sure we get that fixed, but get out of the pocket, throw it away, and make sure to keep us in field goal range. You know, those are all things he'll learn. So Michigan offense, along with the Michigan defense, has things to work on this week, and they got to show up better against Washington. Junior tight end Zach Marshall did speak to the media though, and he said that they have had great practices and, you know, they're executing things pretty well, so can't complain. And then also, you know, we know it's a bounce back week, so that's what we're going to do. You know, the message in the building is the same. We work hard. We're going to outwork you. Sometimes they're in better coverage against our plays. At the end of the day, you have a play sheet, and sometimes your play sheet loses to theirs. And he spoke on Sherrone Moore and his, you know, blue collar approach that he said during his press conference. He said it's a down to business kind of thing. The message was, you know, we will persist until we succeed. That's our team message. We will persist until we succeed. And he said offensively, you know, once we go from being a unit to being truly cohesive, we'll be really, really good. I think it's one drive where we start on our side of the field, go all the way down, don't have a negative play. Once you do it, it becomes a habit. And if we can make it a habit on offense to score, we'll crush other teams. He did say though that, you know, they need to be good at the fundamentals at football. Coaching staff is really emphasizing on perfecting plays. And then offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey did speak to the media today. He said that they hope they can get the tight ends more involved in the offense, but it's dependent on coverages and what the defense is showing. He also did say that, you know, at times they're putting guys in the best position and other times they aren't, which he did say that, you know, he needs to be better at that. And then he did say that running back Justice Haynes, he said it's probably a wait and see thing, but he said that they are hopeful that he can play this weekend. And speaking on quarterback Bryce Underwood, he said that, you know, he's continued to develop each and every week, but they want to work more on his pocket presence. But, you know, he said he's developing, going through his progressions better as the season moves on. So that's what some Michigan coaches and players had to say. It is bounce back week here for the Wolverines. Big game against Washington, and they need to flush that USC loss and bounce back here because everything is still in front of them, and their schedule definitely works out in their favor. Then I also wanted to talk about some recruiting news here. Michigan will be hosting the 2028 five-star quarterback Donald Tabron. Comes from Cass Tech. Very important 2028 in-state prospect for the Wolverines. He will be on campus for the game against Washington. And also we touched up a little bit on some Penn State commits who Michigan could potentially go after with the firing of James Franklin. A lot of them have already decommitted, and one of them is the 2027 four-star top 100 wide receiver Khalil Taylor from the state of Pennsylvania, as Michigan definitely in the mix here for him. He is going to be visiting Michigan for the Ohio State game November 29th. Michigan going after multiple top 2027 wide receivers, including Monsoon Sales, Dakota Grant, and then Matthew Gregory and Quinton Burrell are both expected to be on campus this weekend for the Washington game. So Michigan looking to put their finishing touches on the 2026 recruiting class. They're still going after multiple flip targets, and then they're trying to build up a very special 2027 recruiting class. So the future definitely looks bright as far as recruiting goes, but can Sherrone Moore, this coaching staff, get things together here through the back half of this season as they have a big one, a big bounce back game against Washington this weekend. But with that, that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to go ahead, drop a like, comment down below, and subscribe for more if you are new around here. I greatly appreciate it. And other than that, we will see you guys in the next video. Go Blue.